Another, Jordan Love. I like Jordan Love a lot. He is all over the map. He gets hot, but he's been injured in back-to-back years, not for a long time, but banged up. And I got like 8 games over 100 passer rating and 6 games, under 90. He's too inconsistent. I also am not going to have trouble.
So, a ton of you have been hitting me up, asking constantly, what's the deal with Jordan Love? When are you finally going to talk about Jordan Love? And I assured you all, don't worry, a dedicated video on Love is coming. I haven't forgotten. Now, this other analyst put out his top 10 quarterbacks: Allen, Mahomes, Caleb, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jake May, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold. But then he also had a second group of signal callers who just missed that cut. That second list included Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Baker Mayfield. And this gets really fascinating for me because I'd previously made a separate video focusing on Trevor Lawrence. In that video, I pointed out that Lawrence has all the classic, prototypical tools: big frame, strong arm, physical presence, and now he has Liam Cohen as his coordinator. I argued that, technically speaking, out of that entire second group, Lawrence is the one who, in theory, is best positioned to leap into that top 10 conversation. Why? Because he now has this potentially fantastic coach-quarterback partnership in Jacksonville. But Jordan Love is in that same exact conversation, paired with Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. And honestly, there seem to be some really serious misunderstandings floating around about Jordan Love. Let's look at the numbers. Last season, Jordan Love posted the 3rd highest offensive rating according to PFF. Now, look, that's not the only metric I care about, not by a long shot. But consider this: a 66.3% completion rate, 3,300 passing yards, 23 touchdowns against only 6 interceptions, and a passer rating of 101.2. I believe his passer rating landed him inside the top 10. Yeah, I think it was 6th overall. 101.2, let me check his completion percentage. That was 11th. So he missed the top 10 by just 1/10 of a point. By 0.1. So, what can you do? But his adjusted completion percentage, which, frankly, is a stat we should all prioritize way more than the raw number because it factors in drops, throwaways, and spikes, that was top 5. That means, technically and theoretically, he was the 5th most precise passer in the entire NFL. And yet, the common refrain is that Jordan Love is erratic. And I'm sitting here thinking, folks, look at the offense surrounding him. It's been a revolving door of inconsistency. He's had guys cycling in and out of the lineup constantly. That's been the case right from the very start of the season. Then on top of that, he loses his number 1 target, Kraft. What do you honestly expect to happen? When you're a pure pocket passer like Jordan Love, that kind of loss hurts you directly. It's going to have negative consequences in a way that might not hit a quarterback like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson as hard. Those guys have that extra physical dynamism, an additional layer of resilience that many other quarterbacks simply don't possess, to be perfectly honest. But notice how we talk about Patrick Mahomes. People say, well, Rashee Rice got hurt, Xavier Worthy was banged up, or was Rice suspended? And Travis Kelce isn't the same player anymore. Of course his numbers are down. So why don't we extend that same benefit of the doubt to Jordan Love? This is what I always argue: you can't just fire back with, well, Mahomes has won Super Bowls. That's completely irrelevant, and actually, it proves my point even further. A Super Bowl winning quarterback, an elite-level quarterback, when his receivers are constantly in and out of the lineup, when his offensive line is a bit shaky, and when there's no consistent ground game, he starts looking like a pretty inconsistent quarterback himself. Doesn't he? So if Patrick Mahomes can look inconsistent under those circumstances, then what chance does Jordan Love have? That's just basic logic. Love also missed several games due to injury. Do the quick math. If he had played a full season, he would have easily been top 10, maybe even top 5, in terms of dropbacks under pressure. Same quick math puts him in the top 10 for touchdown passes. And his touchdown to interception ratio would have been elite. If we extrapolate his stats over a few more games, give him a few more touchdowns, and just for argument's sake, tack on 1 extra interception, even though that's mathematically not quite right, just to create a worst-case scenario for him, he'd still be ranked in the top 5, 7, 9 of the NFL in that ratio. That seems pretty impressive to me. Here's what drives me absolutely crazy. Let's compare him to Caleb Williams. Caleb finished with 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 6.9 yards per attempt. Now, if we normalize their playing time, Jordan Love honestly would have been right around 27 touchdowns himself. And let's just say 7 interceptions as well. That would be essentially the same touchdown-interception ratio. The yardage totals would also be nearly identical. Okay, it's rough math, but it's in the same ballpark. Yet Love averaged 7.7 yards per attempt, while Williams averaged 6.9. Caleb Williams had a 58.1% completion rate. Jordan Love had 66.3%. Love's average depth of target was 9.2 yards, Caleb's was 8.9. And that adjusted completion percentage I mentioned earlier? Love is 5th in the league. Caleb Williams? He's second to last, only above rookie Cam Ward. Now consider the supporting cast. The Bears had an elite rushing attack, one of the best in football, 2,400 yards and 19 rushing touchdowns, with a top-tier offensive line. Meanwhile, the Packers finished with 2,037 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns. Think about how much everyone complained about the Chiefs lacking a run game. People were devastated for them. They had 1,800 yards. The Packers had 2,037. The Chiefs averaged 4.2 yards per carry. The Packers averaged 4.1. The Bears? 4.7 yards per carry. That is a massive difference. Huge. The Bears had 11 runs of 20-plus yards. The Packers had 6. Yes, the Packers had a good offensive line, a 69% pass block win rate, ranked 6th. But the Chicago Bears were number 1 at 74%. That 74% is the second highest mark I've ever personally seen. The highest was Mahomes and the Chiefs in 2022 at 75%. For context, everyone was raving about the Philadelphia Eagles having the most dominant offensive line in history, and their pass block win rate was 67%. The Bears were at 74%, okay? And their run block win rate was 5th at 74%. The Packers were at 71%, ranked 19th. So, as much as it pains me to admit this as a Green Bay Packers fan, the Bears simply had a better overall roster. Better offensive line, better running game, better coaching. I just have to say it. Better coaching, better weapons, healthier weapons. And yet, Jordan Love produced nearly identical numbers? But Caleb Williams did flashier things. That's the biggest hurdle Jordan Love faces. First, people still remember that Love has laid some absolute eggs. He's had these weird, terrible games where nothing worked. I think Nick Wright actually nailed this take. It's that when Jordan Love throws an interception, it's often so spectacularly bad that you think, only a bad quarterback could make that throw. Although, to be fair, Patrick Mahomes tried to compete with him there. Mahomes had 2 or 3 of the worst picks I've seen. I remember Romo saying about a Mahomes interception, "That's one of the worst I've ever seen." I can't understand why you'd have an attempt that throw. It's just that awful. And Jordan Love has some of those moments that make you feel like he doesn't take care of the football. If you asked me, even though I watch every game and take detailed notes for all my Packers and Love videos, and you said off the top of my head, how many interceptions did Love throw? I'd probably guess 10 or 11. But the real answer is 6. And you'd say, oh, really? That's it? So it feels like more because early in his career, that was a genuine issue. I recall a conversation breaking down a Drew Brees video where we talked about Love's ball security. Not all interceptions are the same. Sometimes it's the wrong throw at the wrong time. Sometimes it's the right decision but a poor throw. Drew Brees described it as being a calculated gambler as a quarterback. You have to know when to take risks. That was part of Love's growth process. In many ways, that was his first impression on the league. And because Jordan Love is more of a playmaker from inside the pocket, he doesn't blow you away by scrambling for 35 seconds and then launching the ball 60 yards downfield. So you don't see him making those insane highlight reel plays. But you forget that some of his plays were truly special. I'm thinking of a couple of 4th-down touchdown throws. Against the Detroit Lions, I think. You forget those moments. That beautiful pass to Tucker Kraft before he got injured, I believe it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those special MO. Ments get overlooked. Now, again, I think Caleb Williams is awesome. Sorry to my fellow Packers fans, but I believe Caleb will continue to grow and improve. However, Caleb did not run that offense at a high level. Not at all. Here's a great way to look at it, and this is how I see what happened last season. This isn't a prediction for the future. If Caleb Williams had actually executed the offense the way Ben Johnson wanted him to, his stats would have been through the roof. Easily 30-plus touchdowns for Caleb. And honestly, probably 4,500 passing yards, a huge total. I don't think Jordan Love was flawless. There were definitely opportunities he left on the field. I'm not going to pretend he batted 1,000. But it wasn't anywhere close to the level of Caleb Williams. It was game after game after game where I thought, he missed this, missed this, missed this. And all the announcers talked about it. Troy Aikman, Greg Olsen, Tom Brady, they all took their turn pointing it out. If anything, I think Matt LaFleur took more heat. And again, the injuries and the lack of consistent offensive production beyond just, hey, Jordan, go make a play, were the real story. So it's frustrating. Because on one hand, Jordan Love needs to be better and has underperformed a bit. But I completely understand why we're in this situation. It's also frustrating because as I've been making all these individual quarterback videos, fleshing out my takes on different players, it clarifies other things. I have a take now about Justin Herbert. Because of the team around him and the revolving door of coaches and coordinators, the Chargers have been a mess in that regard. Though it's stabilized under Harbaugh, his career hasn't been fully supported. I've concluded we've never really seen how special Herbert can be because he hasn't had the offensive line, weapons, and coach all together like Mahomes has. Mahomes has had that more than Josh Allen, Burrow, or Lamar. Maybe not every single season, but we've seen his peak potential when everything aligns. For the Packers, it feels like something is always missing. It's always a collection of problems. Again, I want to emphasize, Jordan Love needs to be better. He needs to help himself more. But there's plenty of blame to go around. I truly believe Love put the Packers in a position to beat the Chicago Bears. That loss was not his fault. Not at all. Not even a little bit. So it's a frustrating situation. I don't think we've seen the best of Jordan Love yet. And I do think the Bears have set up Caleb Williams for us to see his absolute peak, and he simply hasn't lived up to it yet. Again, he had a great season, one playoff game, and that's fine. It was his first year with Ben Johnson. He deserves a lot of benefit of the doubt. Jordan Love got to sit for years, all of that. I'm using Caleb Williams as a direct comparison, not to downplay him or say he wasn't good, but just as a reference point. When you look at their stats normalized over our 17 games, the production is similar. Yet Caleb was given a lot of gifts, a great situation, and he didn't maximize it. That means something to me. I talk about that all the time. That's why I think Jalen Hurts deserves more credit. People say, oh, he has a stacked roster. Yes, and he's had seasons where he maximized it, took advantage, executed. He did it against the Packers in the playoffs. It wasn't a perfect game, but he did exactly what he needed to win. Caleb Williams did not. And that's where I knock Jordan Love. I made a video about the Packers and Love, referencing the Eagles game as a perfect example. That wasn't a crazy game for the Eagles, and the Packers' defense was great. But Jalen Hurts took care of the ball, was smart, and managed his way to victory in a way Jordan Love simply did not. Regardless of injuries, regardless of everything I just said in his defense, in those moments, yes, he needs to be better. Absolutely. But when we talk about Love being inconsistent, the roster and injuries create a push-pull situation. Matt LaFleur is supposed to be the guy who gets the run game going. And yet, the Packers were only a couple hundred yards ahead of the Chiefs. And let's be clear, Mahomes went down, and Carson Wentz had a decent year. It's not hard to imagine that if Mahomes played the full season and Love played the full season, the Chiefs would have had more rushing yards, because their offense cratered without him. The team everyone says has no run support I'd have finished ahead of the Packers. Matt LaFleur, you're part of that coaching tree known for creative, consistent run games. Ben Johnson goes to the Bears and snaps his fingers and gets it done. We're not blaming the quarterback here, it's not that no one trusts Love to throw, so they stack the box. That's not the problem. So, there's a bit of blame to go around for the Packers as a whole. We always talked about the Packers as a great example of something Colin says, that you can't be bad anywhere. You don't have to be great everywhere, but you can't be bad anywhere. I think there's truth to that, and the Packers are a perfect example of it not quite working. Everyone says, oh, they have good receivers, and you name all the names. Yeah, they're solid. They're not disasters, not liabilities. I'm not trying to pretend Love is carrying a ragtag group. But it's also not quite there. And it seems like everyone on that team has been injured, in and out of the lineup. I think Matt LaFleur is an awesome coach, but when there's a moment to say, that was Matt LaFleur, that's why he's awesome, it's like Shanahan had a masterclass against the Eagles in the playoffs. An absolute bona fide masterclass. Can we say that about LaFleur? Perfect game plan and execution in the first half against the Bears, then not so much. I thought LaFleur had a masterclass with Malik Willis in a game they eventually lost to the Bears. I was really impressed. Genius. Really smart, courageous play Cal. Ling. But then those moments didn't build momentum with Jordan Love. There seems to be a disconnect. I can't fully diagnose it. I'm not ready to say it's obviously LaFleur holding Love back, nor am I ready to say Love just isn't good enough. I still believe in both of them. But going into last season, 2024, it felt slippery, like they were on ice. I'm looking for them to feel more rooted, to have their legs under them. We saw that, but we also saw stretches of slipperiness. From my view, everyone was contributing to that. And don't tell me that having Tucker Kraft in that offense wouldn't have made things significantly better. Don't tell me Love's stats wouldn't have been higher, more consistent, more productive. Of course they would. You can't take away a great player and not be affected. Otherwise, there's no reason to have or pay great players. So I don't think Jordan Love gets enough respect for that. That doesn't mean we should only hang our hat on his 2023 finish or what he did against the Cowboys. But the conversation around Love has been tricky. It definitely has. It's weird. Even Colin can't make up his mind. I've shown you clips where he calls Love elite, top tier, before or after the Eagles game. Then he went back on it, and now he's leaving him off lists. I think right now, people have a slightly distorted perception of Jordan Love and who he is. I think he lacks some of those highlight reel plays that get everyone excited. The way my mind works, I remember Caleb Williams' insane, spectacular throw. When I say it was luck, I mean it all worked out, it was skill, brilliant, but you run that play 100 times, it doesn't go that way 100 times. Prior to that, he missed a throw he should make 100 out of 100. Chris Collinsworth highlighted that, saying you have to make that throw. If he had, he wouldn't have needed the bailout. So I remember the spectacular throw, but I also vividly remember the failure to execute something fundamental. Jordan Love doesn't have those spectacular highlights that help elevate you and push you forward. It's not that he doesn't have them, I highlighted the Lions and Steelers games. But they're just not as loud. And I think that hurts the perception around Jordan Love. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Do you think Jordan Love should be considered a top 10 quarterback? How do you feel about him being lumped in with Baker Mayfield and that group? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, agree or disagree. Let's get into discussions, maybe some fights, but ultimately, let's have fun. Please consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd love to see you part of it. I want to build something we all feel connected to, something we're excited to be part of. We're well on our way. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.